more than enough time.
Yeah, like when you're underwater.
So many things can happen in 2 minutes. Exactly, when you're underwater, when you're like, when you're stressed out, when the plane door's about to close.
Y'all just don't even know the anxiety I have when Javvad does this to me on Fridays. Like he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get a coffee." What? Wait,
Which
what?
I did.
Oh, God, man,
You
you're
just
killing
need
me,
to
Smalls.
chill out. It's so bad. Like it's forced me to be so original with my excuses as to why I'm turning up late. Before, it's like, oh, I was on the other side. There's a line at the coffee machine, or I thought it was in that meeting room. Now it's like literally you're sat at home and you got these. You just got to click on a link, and so this technically shouldn't be a reason for being late. But I just like the drama. Come on, I like giving you anxiety.
You know what?
It's my objective for the year to have you on meds by the end of it. If I don't do that, then I failed.
Well, on a serious note, though, I'm actually really liking what you're doing behind you, with your lighting, with the plaques and stuff up there. And I mentioned this the other day, but every time I see this now, I mean, you're really kind of up in the game. If we go back to earlier episodes and see what it looked like, it's really making some improvements, man. And I'm serious kudos on that.
Why, thank you. It feels really weird you complimenting me. It's because I remember you all the time saying how my whiteboard was not straight. It's crooked.
It wasn't. This one kind of looks crooked too, but that could be your camera. I don't know.
No, that's not, what is it? Not everything has to be straight, okay?
The only thing that bugs me here is
2023.
that big cord running across the bottom of your that. Oh my gosh.
This is so annoying. And okay, we don't have time to get into this, but I will tell you about this afterwards. I will tell you about this after the show is over. So anyway, let's jump into the first story of the week. Over 3.9 billion with a B has been lost to fraud and cybercrime in the last 13 months, and that's only in the UK. Well,
yeah, that's 3.9 billion of your pounds, like the big monies.
With the Tories in power, I'm surprised the number is that low.
Oh my.
Okay, no. Let's just move. But
it's interesting, like the ranking of some of this stuff. Now, you and I mean, we live so much in this cybersecurity realm. I think we always put like hacks and cyber stuff all the way up in the very top of what's causing all the problems. But I mean, check plastic card and online bank scams. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's a very, very broad, like, I mean, checks are written by people who still use fax machines, I think. I mean, that's that's where the Venn diagram is. But plastic card, even, I mean, I'll be interested to know what kinds of actually these are, because the cards, they have the chip and pin. That's
really supposed to fix all of that, right?
Yeah, and now they don't come embossed with the card numbers, because there's no need for the zip zap machines anymore.
Yep.
So
the zip zap machine, is that what they're called?
Well, you know what I mean. It's okay. So how there was the card number used to be embossed on the card before. So what you used to do is, before you had these terminals which could automatically validate, you used to hand it over to the shopkeeper, and they had this machine they used to put the card into, and they used to put the paper on top, and then they'd run the zip zap over the top. I don't know what the technical term is. I don't know. It was like a roller, and you used to take an imprint off the card and all the details off it onto the carbon paper. Which is why the CC exists in the emails. It's a carbon copy, because you used to put the carbon. I sound so old right now.
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do.
See, I mean, forget about 2000. I think even someone born in the early 1990s, like 91, 92, 93, they would be sitting there thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about?
It reminds me of when my kids, they went into this it was like a 50s themed diner one time back when we lived in Arizona. And they were dropping something off to somebody. So they ran in to give it to him and they came back out and they're like, hey, they have one of those machines in there that plays the really big CDs. And it's like, that's a record player. It's because it's an old time deal, you know. But
Wow.
no, you know, it's interesting because, like you mentioned, with the chip and pin and stuff. The last time I was in London in the UK, which was ages ago, unfortunately, all my credit cards only had the mag strip, which we had here in the US, and you guys really didn't. Y'all were already way ahead of us on that, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I couldn't even buy an Oyster card for the underground with my credit card. I'm like, this sucks, man. And so I was all happy that we got chip and pin because that was really supposed to make a difference. Yet it seems like there's still a whole lot of stuff going on that side.
There is, apparently, but it's interesting. There's lots of, but when you scroll down, there's lots of these delivery scams, phishing attacks, energy bill refunds, which, like, again, a lot of smishing as part of this took place. Purchase scams.
Oh, friend in need scams.
Friend in need. Yes, this is why I have no friends. So you don't have friends, you can't get scammed.
Hey, one of my team leads when I was with the Army, we got an email from him saying he was stuck actually, I think in the UK, and had his wallet stolen, needed money to get home. So, you know, we took up a collection, and the 52 cents we got didn't get him very far. And he wasn't exactly thrilled that that's all we were willing to throw in, you know, but, you know, these things. But, I mean, those have been around for a long time. That was a while back. And yet here they are still making the lists. And still happening out there. It's amazing to me.
It is indeed. So what I couldn't find was what the sources of this figure came from. Like, you know, it's
in the story somewhere, I think.
Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, interesting story. Small things add up to make big impacts. That I think that's the moral of the story. You still have a lot of these scams that we often overlook because they're small fry. They've been going on for ages, but you know, little things do make a difference.
Speaking of little things, now I threw this in there because I just thought this is perfect because it's Florida.
Go on, Florida, man.
Pooping Perpetrator. Right. I don't hear names for things like this, but it kind of, you know, it kind of throws me back to the Home Alone, the original Home Alone. Remember where there's the wet bandits? Their calling card was filling up the sinks and flooding it. You know, the one guy thought he was real cool. This guy apparently broke into like restaurants and stuff, and kind of like pooped on the floor before heading out. That was his calling card. Which is, I don't know, man, that's got to be really annoying. I don't know if you've ever had anything stolen from you, but it's like, it's an angering experience to begin with. Like, I've had my car broken into and things stolen out of it, and I was just angry, you know. But then to find out that not only did someone break in, steal your stuff, but they left that in the middle of the floor, man, that is just, that's just wrong.
That is wrong. And you know what? Most people, it's like you go out in polite company, and most people will be even scared to pass wind. They'll hold that thing in until they're like away from people to let one rip. And this is just like some next level of like sickness right here. I have no idea what would possess. Well, I suppose Florida, man.
I know. I really think it's the mosquitoes. They must carry something that makes us all a little crazy here. I mean, it was a couple days later he got busted jumping into this like river or whatever, butt naked, and that's what got him noticed by the police and eventually arrested for this. I mean,
so why did you add this story? What's the cyber connection here?
There is none. It was just funny because it was Florida.
You're such a kid,
and it's an arrest. I love it.
Hackers use new SwiftSlicer wiper to destroy
Windows domains. Yeah.
Okay, this sounds a bit more cybery.
It is. It is.
What's this all about?
So this is actually another story about the Ruskies, our favorite here. the GRU and a group working for them sending out some stuff that's basically another disk wiper, or it basically goes after Windows domains. I think they were spreading it through some of the group policy, through Active Directory, through group policy. And so talk about wanting to see a bad thing. Now we talk about ransomware, but there's also some of these out there that are just disk wipers. They either wipe it or they encrypt the hell out of everything, and there's no way to get it back. So this is more of this comes back to cyber warfare and what we're seeing in that standpoint. This is targeted Ukraine, I believe, and it's a fairly new one that they're seeing here, from what I understand. But yeah, we're in a world now where cyber warfare is right alongside the kinetic stuff in a lot of ways, shapes, and forms. It's not like the old wars where you dig a trench and throw things at each other or whatever.
Yeah. No, everything is connected. And you know what? You just reminded me. There was a story I was thinking of adding in there, and I forgot. Now I can't remember the name, but there's a UK-based financial institute that was hit by ransomware, I think, this week. And it's not actually a bank or anything, but it provides the platform through which a lot of the trades occur. So because they were hit, a lot of the big banks couldn't conduct business.
So it's like a processing center sort of thing?
Yeah. So while it's like a third-party risk, it's also, you don't realize how important or how dependent we are on so many things nowadays, because there is no manual backup processes. So from that point of view, just even like something like this, it's a disruptive thing. It just goes in, destroys everything. And like someone's probably sitting there on their sofa, like saying, backups, you have the backups. Yes, but it's disruption. Its services are unavailable. And, we all know that, those don't work all the time.
Yeah, there was a tweet this morning. I'm going to try to find it here real quick if I can. Yeah, Lisa Forte put out there, which of the following is the most serious impact felt in the immediate aftermath of a cyber attack? And it was reputation damage, cost of returning to business as usual, fines, or other. And reputation damage and cost of returning to business as usual were topping it at about 45 and 43%. That's a pretty significant thing. So the returning to business as usual, and it's a Twitter poll. It's got to be totally legit on everything, but
it's got to be totally legit. And you know what? I smile because reputational damage is one of those things that, I remember being a consultant, and that was sort of like the go-to thing when you can't really think of anything tangible. Well, think of the reputation. What will people think?
If reputational damage was that big a deal, Target wouldn't be around, Home Depot wouldn't be around, like T-Mobile certainly wouldn't be around after 8 times.
You wouldn't be around.
Well, yeah, there's that too. But seriously, like we talk about it like it's this big deal, but sometimes if you look, maybe the stock price drops for about 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and then boom, it's back to business as usual. It doesn't really seem to impact anything in the long term.
No, I think everyone, or most people, are accepting of the fact that a breach can occur at any time. It's just like, well, yeah, it's how you respond and how you treat your customers or partners, or what your capabilities are. I think that's a lot more telling, and we've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
So insiders, speaking of the man inside, insider attacks becoming more frequent and difficult to detect. So let's see.
I love the first lines on this. Okay. Insider threats are top concern. Only 3% of respondents surveyed are not concerned with insider risk. Okay. So we see this like huge amount of people that are like, oh my gosh. I wonder how often it actually really occurs and what damage it really causes, because ultimately, we've seen some pretty ugly stuff potentially happen with insiders. We saw, if you remember, there was a thing with Tesla where they tried to get somebody to insert a USB drive in one of the machines, right? But you really don't hear about that all that much. In my experience, the malicious insider threat yes, there's theft, there's fraud, and that does definitely happen. But a lot of it is like, I remember salespeople trying to grab like customer lists. So they take it to their next job, right? And they already have a leg up. And we've kind of talked about those things before, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens. But I think it's interesting that this many people said that in there, because when we ask people what their top things are and we don't bring that up, I don't think it gets mentioned as much.
No, it's a bit like saying, like, are you worried about getting hit by a car when crossing the road? When you ask me, sure, it suddenly becomes top of mind. It's like, yeah, I'm worried. I'm a bit worried about that. But everything is a risk, everything is a worry, everything is a concern. But then it's like you said, like, how much are you really going to do? And then you have controls in place that that are there to mitigate stuff from happening. So as long as it's within the risk appetite, that's it's all good, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd be interested in hearing from any of our listeners on some of the stories that they have about like inside threat, if they can talk about it. One of the things I remember is years ago back in San Francisco, the admin, he ended up left a back door or whatever, but he changed, like, he had all the passwords to the fiber WAN network. He was the only one that had the ability to get back in there. It was like, it was one of those situations where someone goes, oh, there's a problem there. Oh, that's Bob. Bob's the guy. And then Bob was no longer there. I think he may have been terminated, and nobody could get back into anything. And he held the passwords and stuff ransom for a while, and ended up, the courts did not appreciate that. But it's, that's insider threat too, is that one-off type of stuff. It does happen.
It does. And I think what we got to, like you mentioned the word like malicious insider, and I think this is where some people don't differentiate well enough. Like, there's malicious insiders which have a plan and they go in, and then a lot of the time it's just non-malicious people are just like a bit lazy. They make a mistake. They're meant to be working, but they look over and their couch looks really comfortable on a Friday afternoon. Say, okay, let's leave the cat to press the button on the keyboard, and I'll go lie down for a while.
Activate the mouse wiggler, right?
Yeah. So it's that kind of stuff happens, and then there are times when people become actual, I say malicious. A lot of the times, especially like when you see, like, you've seen people joke about it, and I'm not sure where, say like, hey, I learned how to do this, and now because I'm working remotely, I actually have 20 jobs. And each employer only takes like, whatever, this much hours to do a day because they've automated stuff or what have you. And that's wrong because it violates a lot of the policies, but it's not like they're not trying to cause harm to the organization. A lot of times they're just trying to make some extra money or give a bit of security and what have you.
Yeah. Ask me about my side hustle.
Yes.
Yeah. It's skimming half cents off of every transaction, right?
Yeah.
Office space.
No, I've seen your side hustle, your tractor videos and stuff that you've been posting online.
Yeah. No, that's such an interesting project.
It's not. No, not to anyone else other than you, but okay. And hillbillies, maybe.
Oh, what's this? You added a story. You came up with something this week. I'm proud.
I've bought something this week. Actually, this is a story I covered when, we covered in the morning when I recorded the Host Unknown podcast. And Tom and Andy, they always watch this show later, and they're like, you keep on ripping off stories. And I said, no, it's a timely topic. Now I'm just going to poorly present it in this afternoon.
Yeah.
So Anker, they have, they're famous for their electronic products, their chargers, their cables, and everything.
I actually really like them for like their little USB power bricks and stuff like that. They're fantastic.
They are really good, and their cables are solid, and what have you. And they do the CCTV cameras, and they done a bit of an oopsie where they let it, you could access it online unencrypted and see people's security feeds. And okay, stuff happens. People leave stuff exposed all the time. What was really bad was how they actually responded to it. So first they said, no, this is wrong. Then they ignored them. Then they said it's impossible. Then they said, oh, it's not really happened. Then it's like, oh, yes, it did happen. It was an error. but only 1% of our global customer base actually use the web interface, to which you think, well, yeah, but every hacker out there is going to use
Right.
it, regardless of whether your customers actually use it. So it was a masterclass in how not to respond to getting told off, like there's these vulnerabilities and what have you. Much to their credit, I'd suppose, they have then come back after. There's been a long period, and the journalists really kept on top of it. But they did say, "Look, okay, we apologize. We didn't respond to this properly the first time," which is probably their way of saying the intern received the first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Blame it on the intern.
Blame it. But they went through and they said, like, we've made the updates, we've pushed the updates to all the cameras, so now they won't use the unencrypted. You know, I don't. We've hired a third party to come in and help audit this all. You know, so it's probably Mandiant or Bruce Schneier. I don't know. Pick your
now
point.
That we're busted.
Yes.
We've decided to go ahead and this seems to be a problem now. We're going to go ahead and do something about it.
Yeah. So which is what, if they'd started with this, like saying, thanks for bringing this to our attention, we're going to look into it, issue a patch, then you say cool response. But, you know, I think, you know, you can't get away with ignoring these sorts of issues these days, especially when you're dealing with, you know, people's privacy and you know, live feeds of their cameras. Of course, that's not to say all the cheap crap you buy off AliExpress is going to be secure, but this is like a known brand. You expect them to be a lot better. So
yeah, interestingly enough, I mean, people put these things in all the time, right? So they're inexpensive, they're easy to set up and all that with these cameras. So we see so many more cameras in homes these days than we used to. Unfortunately, most of these now are connecting to web services. They have to connect to web services, and this is kind of becoming a problem, right? So there was a brand, and I'll try to remember the name of it, super popular on Amazon for a while for their little indoor cameras. They were like $20. Video was fantastic. I knew some people that did fostering, right? So foster kids. So when you do that, you got cameras like every 6 inches in your house, because if anyone ever comes back and accuses you of anything, then you can cover your bases, right? Oh, it was Yi cameras. So all of these things got out everywhere. And then they pushed a change to their terms of services that said you have to use our web stuff now, and we have the right to view it anytime. What do you do when these things are already in people's homes, right? If you don't accept that, these are now useless. And it was a very sneaky way of doing that. And we got to watch that kind of stuff. Now, I use cameras around my house, actually. The ones I use are a brand called Dahua, and they are known to perhaps sometimes call back to China. So I have them on the isolated network, and I use what's called Blue Iris as an interface point, so they can't get to the internet. I feel better about that. The problem is a lot of people don't. They pick these things up off eBay, even if they spend $100 on a known brand. These things are sometimes going, hey, check this out, you know. And I don't know what we're going to do about this on the consumer side, to be honest with you. It's really frustrating to see this kind of stuff happening.
It is, and this is the thing. It's like, you know, we've seen these issues with John Deere, like you buy the tractor, but you're leasing the software. We saw it with Sonos, the like forced redundancy of the products. You know, they won't be supported after a period of time. You know, and I suppose, you know, you can just change the terms of services anytime.
Yeah,
and like, you know, I mean, I could just say right now, oh, terms of services updated, Erich is no longer needed. And just like that, we can get rid of him. So with that, thank you very much for joining us, our lovely listeners. You know, I appreciate you so much, and thank you for listening. So until next week.